Chapter 5 of your textbook covers the integumentary system, which is made up of skin and also the structures associated with skin, like hair, nails, and glands. Skin actually is considered an organ. Doesn't seem like it, but it's an organ because it's made up of multiple different types of tissues. And it performs several different functions for the body. It's the outer covering of your body, so it provides protection because of the sweat glands located in skin. It helps regulate body temperature. Also, there are various sensory receptors for sensation in the skin. It performs excretion of waste products, get excreted onto the skin surface, and also absorption of various substances like water and vitamins. There are two main parts of skin. There's the epidermis, which is the top layer of skin that you can see in the tan color. It consists of several layers of epithelial tissue, and it's actually the thinner portion of the skin. And the other portion is called the dermis. So actually, let me go back to this picture. The dermis is the pink layer, so it's much thicker. It is deep to the epidermis, and it's composed primarily of connective tissue rather than epithelial tissue. And then underneath of the dermis is this fatty layer here called the subcutaneous layer. It's technically not part of skin, but it's located underneath of the skin, and it's also made up of connective tissue, mainly adipose tissue, which is fatty tissue. So that's the basic structure of skin. Let me go over some of the accessory structures that are part of skin. There are various glands. Sudoriferous glands are glands that produce sweat, and that reaches the skin surface through pores, little holes in the skin, and that helps regulate body temperature and excrete wastes. And then the sebaceous glands are your skin's oil glands. They produce sebum, which is oil. And that helps to lubricate the skin. It also contains acid that helps destroy bacteria on the skin surface. And another accessory structure is hair that's located pretty much throughout the skin except for on your lips, palms of your hands, soles of your feet. And there's two main parts of a hair. There's the shaft, which is the visible portion of the hair. It's located above the skin surface. And the root is the part that's embedded in the skin. Associated with the root is the hair follicle. That's the hair root plus the surrounding coverings, layers of tissue around the root. And the papilla is this small hole found at the base of the root, and that contains blood vessels that help to nourish the hair, provide nutrients. Okay, and then finally, nails. These are located on the tips of the fingers and toes, mainly for protection. And there's several parts of a nail. There's the body, it's the main portion. The root is located under the skin, that's not visible. And the lunula is this crescent-shaped, sort of whitish area right here. So next on the PowerPoint, I'm not going to go through every one of these because you guys can read through these yourself, but these are some of the main word elements. You can see these are the word roots and combining forms with that added combining vowel. And it also tells you what their definition is. Okay, here are some common prefixes that are used with those combining forms, as well as suffixes that can be combined with those. So now I'm going to get into some of the pathology related to the integumentary system. A skin lesion, there's various ones shown here. And a lesion is just an area of tissue that's been changed in some way due to an injury or some kind of infection. It might be localized, which means that it's in a specific area of a definite size, or systemic. That means that it's spread widely throughout the body. Primary skin lesions are an initial reaction to diseased tissue, and these might be flat or elevated. Secondary skin lesions are changes that occur within a primary lesion due to an infection or some kind of added injury or trauma or due to a disease. So I'll go through these just really quickly. The primary lesions are a lot of the ones that are shown here. A macule is just a flat pigmented area like a freckle. A papule may be elevated and solid, and sometimes it is pigmented as well. A nodule is also elevated and solid. The difference between this and a papule, though, is that it's usually larger and deeper. A tumor is also elevated and solid, but it is much larger and deeper than a nodule. So between a papule, a nodule, and a tumor is definitely the biggest. A wheal, shown down here, is elevated and solid. This is typically a rounded lesion that includes edema, which is swelling due to fluid accumulation, and it varies in size and shape and color. So this could be, an example would be like hives. A vesicle is an elevated fluid-filled lesion. It's usually pretty small. A pustule is also elevated and fluid-filled, and in this case, it's filled with pus. A bulla is elevated and fluid-filled, and this is typically something that's larger, though. It's a vesicle that is much larger, so it's typically larger than 1 centimeter in diameter. And then secondary lesions, here's a couple examples. Excoriations are scratches, right here, scratches or abrasions of the skin. A fissure is like a slit or a crack, and usually it goes pretty deep. And an ulcer is an open sore or lesion. All right, here's some more examples of the lesions, just other pictures of the lesions that we just talked about. Okay, these are the secondary lesions. All right, so there's 3 different types of burns. They vary in their level of severity. First-degree burns are the most superficial, where there's only damage to the epidermis. An example would just be like a minor sunburn, like you can see here. Second-degree burn, also known as a partial thickness burn, is when you have damage to both the epidermis and the dermis. This generally happens if there is contact with an open flame, and there will definitely be redness and blistering, but usually there's no scarring as a result. The worst type of burn is a third-degree burn. This is known as a full-thickness burn. There's damage to the epidermis and the dermis, as well as the underlying connective tissue underneath, which would be the subcutaneous tissue, also maybe muscles that lie beneath the subcutaneous tissue. So you can see in this case, there is extensive tissue damage. There will be severe scarring as a result of this. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about is cancer related to the integumentary system. The term neoplasm is an abnormal growth of new tissue, and neoplasms are classified as either benign or malignant. If they're benign, they are non-cancerous growths. If they are malignant, it means that they are cancerous and they're composed of abnormal cells that could potentially invade other tissues of the body, so they can spread throughout the body. So tumors are generally graded and staged based on the extent that they have grown and developed. So I'll go through the grading first. This kind of tells you how closely the cells resemble normal tissue or how abnormal they are. So grade 1, tumor cells are well differentiated and they look a lot like the tissue that they came from. So they're not very abnormal. and they still do function. They perform their normal function. Grade 2, the cells are moderately or poorly differentiated. So they're slowly losing their resemblance to the original tissue. There's increased cell division, so there's abnormally high rate of cell division. Grade 3, tumor cells are poorly differentiated, so there's a high degree of abnormality. And in grade 4, which is the worst, tumor cells are poorly differentiated. They're very abnormal. There's extreme variation in cell size and shape, and there's extremely rapid cell division as well. With tumor staging, there's also stages 1 through 4, just like the grading. Stage 1, the tumor is in a defined location and it has not spread to other tissues. In stage 2, the tumor has invaded surrounding tissues. So a tissue that might be right next door, it's moved into. In stage 3, tumor cells have spread into surrounding lymph nodes. And that can be an issue because the lymph nodes are connected to lymphatic vessels, which spread throughout the body. So if tumor cells have spread into the lymph nodes, that's their mechanism for traveling to distant locations throughout the body and spreading in far locations in the body. In stage 4, that's exactly what has happened. This is when the tumor has metastasized, which means that it has spread into distant tissues or organs.